Metallica is one of the greatest metal bands of all time, but even legends have their missteps. Over the years, they've experimented with different sounds, sometimes with brilliant results, other times with divisive outcomes. While Metallica's catalog is filled with iconic tracks, a few songs just don't match their usual excellence. This list is subjective, as every fan has their own opinions. However, these 10 tracks are often criticized for various reasons: weak composition, questionable production, or failing to fit their albums. Let's dive into 10 Metallica songs that, for one reason or another, didn't quite hit the mark. 1. Escape. Escape is often considered the weakest track from Ride the Lightning, one of the best metal albums ever. When an album features classics like For Whom the Bell Tolls, Fade to Black, and Creeping Death, it's hard for a less impactful track to stand out. While not necessarily bad on its own, Escape feels out of place among these legendary songs. The track has more of a standard rock feel, which doesn't fit well with the rest of the album's thrash and complex songwriting. Even James Hetfield has expressed regret over it, saying the band was pressured into writing a more radio-friendly track. Though some fans defend it, Escape remains a song that doesn't quite match Metallica's usual greatness. 2. Shoot Me Again. The Saint Anger album is controversial for many reasons: its raw production, lack of solos, and the infamous trash can drum sound. Shoot Me Again embodies all of these issues. The song meanders without a clear focus, dragging on for far too long with repetitive lyrics and uninspired riffs. Lars Ulrich's drum sound is particularly grating on this track, making it even harder to enjoy. While Metallica was trying to experiment with a more aggressive and unpolished sound, Shoot Me Again is one of the most forgettable songs from an already divisive album. 3. Don't Tread on Me. Coming from the legendary Black Album, Don't Tread on Me is an example of a song that just doesn't measure up to the rest of the record. The album had a mix of commercially successful songs like Enter Sandman and deeper, well-crafted tracks like The Unforgiven. Don't Tread on Me falls somewhere in between, but lacks a distinct identity. The song has an odd marching rhythm that feels out of place. While it carries a strong patriotic message, the execution is awkward. Given how strong the rest of the album is, this track ends up being one of the weaker moments in Metallica's discography. 4. Poor Twisted Me. By the time Load came out, Metallica had fully embraced a more bluesy, alternative rock sound. While some tracks like Until It Sleeps and Hero of the Day worked well in this new style, to you, Poor Twisted Me felt like an unfinished idea. The song drags with a repetitive structure and lacks any real energy or purpose. It's one of the few Metallica songs that feels completely unnecessary. Some fans appreciate its laid-back groove, but it ultimately doesn't have the impact needed to stand out. It's a track that gets skipped more often than not. 5. Suicide and Redemption. Metallica has created some of the best instrumental tracks in metal, such as Orion and The Call of Cthulhu. Unfortunately, Suicide and Redemption doesn't live up to those classics. Found on Death Magnetic, this instrumental feels like an extended jam session rather than a carefully crafted piece. It lacks the dynamic shifts that made Metallica's earlier instrumentals great. At nearly 10 minutes, it overstays its welcome without offering much in terms of progression or excitement. Compared to the band's other instrumentals, this one just falls flat. 6. All Within My Hands. All Within My Hands from Saint Anger is often criticized for several reasons, and James Hetfield's vocals are a major one. While Hetfield has never been known for technical vocal perfection, his performance here feels especially off. His pitch wavers, and the lack of a clear structure in the song makes his delivery sound even more inconsistent. The song itself already struggles with its chaotic arrangement, and Hetfield's shaky vocals only add to its flaws. Unlike Metallica's stronger works, this track lacks cohesion, making it one of the weakest moments in Hetfield's career. Combined with the album's infamous production choices, All Within My Hands stands out as one of the band's most criticized songs, reinforcing why Saint Anger remains such a divisive album among fans. 7. Attitude. Reload suffered from having too many songs that felt like filler, and Attitude is a prime example. The song lacks the fire and complexity Metallica is known for, offering little more than a forgettable riff and generic lyrics. It's one of those tracks that seem like it was added just to fill space. Had it been cut from the album, it's unlikely that anyone would have missed it. Many fans consider Reload to be one of Metallica's weakest efforts, and Attitude does little to help its case. 8. The Struggle Within. The Struggle Within feels like an attempt to recapture Metallica's early sound, but it falls short. Instead of reviving their thrash roots, the song leans into the more mainstream style of the Black Album, yet lacks the power or appeal of the band's best work. It feels weak and uninspired, failing to grab the attention of die-hard fans. As the closing track of Metallica's best-selling album, it should have left a lasting impact, but instead it feels like an afterthought. It lacks the intensity of their earlier thrash metal sound and doesn't fully embrace the melodic, radio-friendly direction they were heading toward. The song comes across as underdeveloped and forgettable, making it one of the weaker moments in the album and a clear contender for Metallica's least memorable tracks. 9. Ronnie. Ronnie is a track that feels incomplete and lacks the power expected from Metallica. The riff, usually a strong point for James Hetfield, falls flat and is among the weakest in the band's history. The song never fully develops, making it feel like a missed opportunity. One of the biggest flaws of Load and Reload is their tendency to include undercooked ideas, and Ronnie is a prime example. While Lars Ulrich and Hetfield prefer to use every idea rather than discard them, sometimes leaving a track in the studio is the better choice. This song doesn't add anything significant to the album and is easily skippable for fans. 10. The Unforgiven III. It's hard to believe that a song from the Unforgiven series would be considered among Metallica's weakest, but the Unforgiven III just doesn't hold up to the previous two. The first Unforgiven was an emotional and unique power ballad, and the second had a darker, more dramatic feel. The third installment, however, fails to capture the magic of the originals. The melody is forgettable, and Hetfield's vocals lack the strength and passion that made the first two so powerful. Some fans appreciate the attempt at continuing the story, but The Unforgiven 3 ultimately feels unnecessary. It's a song that doesn't stand out on Death Magnetic and doesn't live up to its predecessors. In conclusion, even the greatest bands have their off moments, and Metallica is no exception. While their catalog is filled with legendary tracks, these songs have often been criticized for not reaching the band's usual standards. Some suffer from weak production, while others simply don't fit the style Metallica is best known for. Regardless, they are all part of the band's history, showing the risks they've taken throughout their career. Sennas, what do you think? Do you agree with this list? Or do you have different picks for the worst Metallica songs? Let us know! Subscribe to our channel for the newest entertainment vibes. Thanks for your support.